The sun had barely risen when Jaxon felt the first tremor, a deep rumbling vibration through the jungle floor that made every bird fall, silent and every predator halt, mid-step as if the world itself held its breath. And though the deadwood marsh had swallowed the second amulet and martial, Crow's shadow war had ended. The jungle warned Jaxon that peace was only a fragile illusion hanging by a vine, ready to snap. Seraphine, sharpening her revolver under the canopy of twisted roots, noticed Jaxon's stare and asked what troubled him, but before he could answer, a thunderous howl erupted across the horizon, so powerful it cracked branches, knocked birds from the sky, and sent shockwaves through the ground, a howl unlike any animal Jaxon had ever heard, one filled with metal and rage and something impossibly ancient. And at that moment the sky darkened as a flock of ravens burst from the treetops, fleeing toward the western cliffs as if chased by death itself. Jaxon and Seraphine sprinted toward the source of the howl, moving through ferns, fallen logs, and steam that rose from freshly scorched earth, until they reached the Ridge of Titans, where they found a crater the size of a small fortress, trees split in half, stones melted like wax, and claw marks carved deep into the rock, claw marks that glowed faintly with a burning orange heat. Seraphine crouched to examine them, but Jaxon knew instantly what made them, because he recognized the markings from the Keeper murals, the Iron Howlers, a forgotten species created long before humanity, forged by ancient shamans and metalworkers, who fused beast and machine to defend the jungle from invaders during the Shadow King's first rise. But these creatures were believed extinct, destroyed in the war that cost hundreds of Keeper lives, and yet now one had awakened. And worse, its howls echoed in more than one direction, meaning it wasn't alone. As they stood in the crater, a metallic growl rumbled behind them, and from the smoke emerged a towering beast, 8 feet tall, plated in rusted steel and bone, eyes burning like furnace embers, fangs dripping molten sparks, its limbs a mixture of sinew and machinery, and as it stared at Jaxon, the heartstone inside his chest pulsed violently, resonating with the creature as if trying to communicate. But before Jaxon could decipher its meaning, the Iron Howler charged with earth-shaking force, its claws slicing through a fallen tree like paper, and Jaxon grabbed Seraphine's waist, leaping aside as the beast's strike tore a trench in the jungle floor. Jaxon roared with primal fury and attacked with explosive strength, punching the creature's metal chest with all the Heartstone's power. But the shock nearly shattered his arm. The beast was built to withstand ancient magic, its body reinforced by alloys the world no longer knew how to forge. Seraphine fired multiple rounds into its exposed joints, sparks bursting like fireworks, but the creature barely flinched, its gaze fixed on Jaxon as if recognizing him as a threat or perhaps as a chosen successor to the Keepers. The beast lunged again, pinning Jaxon against a boulder, its jaws inches from his throat, molten breath searing his skin. And for a moment Jaxon glimpsed his reflection in its metal eyes, not as a man, but as the jungle's last line of defense, a warrior destined for battles even he wasn't ready for. He summoned every ounce of Heartstone energy, vines erupting from the ground to bind the monster's legs, roots tightening, animals gathering in the trees above. But the Iron Howler snapped the vines like twigs and hurled Jaxon across the crater, crashing into stone hard enough to crack the boulder. As Seraphine rushed to him, Jaxon shouted for her to run, because the beast wasn't attacking at random. It was tracking something else, something behind them, and then the ground split open, revealing a massive underground tunnel lined with scorch marks, leading deep beneath the jungle. The Iron Howler leapt into the tunnel and vanished into darkness, howling again, a signal calling more of its kind. Jaxon and Seraphine followed quickly, dropping into the cavern where ancient gears, larger than wagons, turned slowly, powered by roots and old magic. The chamber beneath was a forgotten forge, a place where the original Keepers shaped the Iron Howlers. And inside the forge, they found a dying Keeper, Spirit, the last of the metal shapers, his form translucent and flickering, like firelight, his voice trembling as he recognized the Heartstone's glow inside Jaxon. The spirit revealed that a warlord from the far west had discovered fragments of the Iron Howlers and reactivated the forges before dying to the very beasts he awakened. But worse, he left behind schematics and instructions that had been stolen by a new faction, calling themselves the Gear-Bound Syndicate, a group of engineers, gunsmiths, rogue inventors, and bounty hunters who believed the West should evolve beyond flesh into steel and power, and they planned to rebuild the Iron Howlers as unstoppable weapons to conquer the frontier. Jaxon felt the weight of this revelation crush him. If an awakened Iron Howler was this powerful, an engineered army of them would erase entire civilizations. The Keeper spirit used the last of its energy to open a vision portal, showing Jaxon that the Gearbound Syndicate's leader was none other than Silas Red, a brilliant former scientist, expelled from the Western government for illegal experiments and believed dead after a lab explosion. But now Silas had survived, stronger, twisted half-machine himself, fueled by a core stolen from a collapsed mine, giving him unnatural strength and the ability to command broken technologies from centuries past. Silas Red's vision was to merge West and machine, jungle and steel, to create a world where survival wasn't determined by nature or spirit, but by pure engineered domination, and the Iron Howlers were only the beginning. The vision faded as the spirit dissolved into sparks that drifted upward like dying fireflies. Before Jaxon could react, the earth shook violently as 3 Iron Howlers burst into the cavern, their eyes synchronized like soldiers obeying a silent command. Jaxon grabbed Seraphine's hand and sprinted deeper into the tunnels as the beasts gave chase, their claws striking sparks, their breath lighting torches with accidental fire. Jaxon used roots to collapse a tunnel behind them, buying a few seconds. But even stone walls crumbled under the beast's weight. They emerged into an ancient arena hidden beneath the jungle, a circular battlefield once used to test Iron Howlers' loyalty, and standing at the far end was Silas Red himself, half-metal jaw gleaming, spine reinforced with gears, a mechanical gauntlet covering his left arm, humming with unstable power. He smiled at Jaxon with twisted admiration, saying he had been waiting for the jungle's chosen one because only someone infused with Keeper essence could unlock the final forge and awaken the Titan Howler, the largest of all, capable of flattening mountains. Jaxon stepped forward, fury burning in his chest, telling Silas that nature wasn't meant to be enslaved, and Silas only laughed, raising his mechanical hand to command the 3 Iron Howlers to surround Jaxon and Seraphine. But suddenly, from above, a massive shadow swept over the arena, a giant eagle from the northern cliffs, bonded to Jaxon since childhood, diving with talons sharp as daggers, slamming into one of the Iron Howlers and throwing it aside. Jaxon roared and charged, Seraphine firing beside him, animals emerging from cracks in the arena walls, jaguars, wolves, apes, joining the fight in a chaotic symphony of nature versus machinery. Silas watched with sinister calm, knowing this was only a test, and when the final Iron Howler fell, he vanished into the shadows with a chilling promise. This is only the beginning. Wildheart, when the Titan Howler wakes, your jungle will kneel, and as the arena trembled again, deeper, louder, more violent than before, Jaxon realized. Silas was right. The ground-shaking roar that followed was no ordinary beast, but something colossal, ancient and fully awakening. And if viewers wanted to see the world-shattering battle that awaited Jaxon, to witness the rise of the Titan Howler and the war for the soul of the wild frontier, they needed to subscribe to Old Whisper Stories, because the legend was accelerating, the stakes rising, and the frontier's darkest hour was approaching fast.